So for our next demo, I'm going to talk a little bit about retrospective tools and different retrospective questions. As you know, as a Next Steps contributor, we are coming to the end of the first year of our funded project. And so we're encouraging teams to do a retrospective of how this year went for you. The retrospective could cover a number of topics, but it should at least cover how well you got on well together, how the work distribution was done, if there could have been a better way to distribute the time versus the tasks, and anything else that comes to mind. That's including your choice of tools and maybe a little bit of a reflection around how it went overall for the different people, how people felt within the team dynamic and what could be improved and so on. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. As a Next Steps contributor, we are offering each team the possibility to have a Miro board. All you need to do is request one on the Next Steps project channel. And so I'm going to use one of these boards to show you some techniques here. Let's say template retro. Miro takes a while to load. This is one of the disadvantages of using Miro between the teams. So if you have low Wi-Fi problems, this might not be the tool for you. However, I think it has some interesting retro style here that you can also use, not necessarily on Miro, but also elsewhere. So if I put here retrospective. I'm going to use some interesting ones. Let's try this one. So in this type of retrospective, I can zoom in here so I can show you. It covers what I would say the classic retrospective questions, but it's in a kind of fun way. So it asks what went well, what didn't go so well, what are some action points for the future. This can come later as a second part of your retro. And also a shout out for your team. So what went well within that team. As you can see, it has a number of post-it notes which people can duplicate. And you can also create more post-it notes from here. And you can move these around. If you want to eliminate some of the influencing between team members, you can also make sure that these are private first. So when you create, you can type them out somewhere else and then paste them into these post-its. So let's say I wanted to use this model, I would create, let's say, a box for each team member and put them on different places in the board. I can zoom in and zoom out, as you can see here. Let's say this is a team with 3 people. And I ask each team member to just zoom into their box and create their post-its. Yeah. And then when everyone is finished, you can also time box this, let's say 10 minutes for each of these questions. And then you can share them and move them in place right here. The action points for the future could be a joint exercise. So this is one style of retrospective that's possible and that is kind of interesting and fun to do on Miro. I'm going to try another one. This is one that's interesting because we see it in some permaculture designs sometimes. I'm going to zoom into it so you can see it. So this type of retrospective covers rose, thorn, bud. Rose is something that's obviously very nice and beautiful and signifies the success. A thorn is the challenge, and the bud is something that's potential that can be developed, and so on. And as you can see, it has already inbuilt in it an explanation for the theme if you want to use this, but you don't have to use it in Miro. You can also use it elsewhere. It also has different timings and recommended ways of doing it. Obviously, you can adapt these to your own theme as you please. So this is the rose, thorn, bud method. Let's do another one. As you can see, it takes a while even with good bandwidth. This is similar to the first one that we saw. It has some interesting different islands. So I'll zoom in so you can see exactly what this is about. Here's an explanation from the designer. And this is quite an in-depth retrospective, so it's pretty interesting, I think. It has the classic questions like what went well, didn't go so well, something was unexpected, shout out and biggest learnings. It's also quite a fun team skill development. So this allows you to basically map out the skills that we wanted to learn and enhance. And there's a skills bank, but you can always change these. So if you, let's say, double click on this, you'll be able to change the text to whatever you want. Also the names of the teams, everything can be changed. If you wanted to change the titles or exercises, this is also possible. In Miro, everything is customizable. Here's another exercise. There's no ones. This is also a good one, I think. Looking ahead, especially after your retro is kind of complete. So what's coming in the new year, what you would like more of and less of. Here's some project reflections. And it's basically quite a comprehensive retrospective. It's useful for teams that are larger teams, perhaps, that have funding for a significant amount of funding for the 3 years. So a more in-depth retrospective is useful because it gives you kind of an overview of not only the work aspects, but also the modes of being together and how different expectations are reflected into the team. So this is another one. I'll show you one more. So this is a retrospective for beginners. There's some information always about who's designed it, especially if you want to give them some feedback. And it comes with some instructions also how to use it right here. So this is a retrospective for 2 weeks, but you can also adapt the timing to be for the whole year if you haven't done retrospectives before this year. There's some more information, and you basically follow the instructions from one to the other. Here's an example of dot voting. So this is where you're using dot voting to gather data. You can vote on the topics that are most important to you by moving the dots. So let's say I wanted to vote on this one. Oops. Just move the dot. This one. Change my name. There. And so this shows you which of these have the most interest from the team, basically, so that you can continue those. Generate insights. As you can see, instructions are always here on the side. As you can see, some of the questions carry on for almost all the same. Basically, what went correct, what worked well, and what we can do different is a kind of common theme across retrospectives, no matter which model do you use. And what did you learn this retrospective? Maybe that's a good carry out and the next steps. So that's pretty much it for this one. Now, this is the kind of Miro version, but as I said, you can take these and use them in whatever tool you're using. Now, next I'm going to use to show you another tool which you can use. I'm just going to move this a little bit so we can see. So Parabol is a software that you can use with your team to carry out retrospectives or weekly meetings or whatever needs you have to organize your team. It also takes a moment to load. I'm gonna close some stuff here. So for this tool, you're going to need to create an account to use it if you want to use it. You also will need that each team member has their own account before they can be added to their team. So I'm going to use an example of a demo. So here's a demo, start demo. So in this one, where they use the start, stop, continue model, and it gives me here different users, and I can add or invite people to the team through the dashboard. Right. So let's add a new meeting, for example. I want to add a new meeting, retro, and I can pick here the different templates that I want to use. So here's a sailboat template, for example. It gives you the questions that are being asked in that retro, wind and sails, anchors, and risks is one. I want to narrow down by retro. So if I put retro on the search, it's showing me all the retrospectives that there is. Always be learning retro, things I learned, things I want to learn. Commitment, focus, open, respect, and courage. These are the Scrum values retro. The Marie Kondo retro, which is very minimalistic. What sparks joy? Thank you and goodbye. And so what do we want to stop doing, basically? And things to upcycle. So stuff that's changed or that needs improving. It, as you can see, it generally follows the same retrospective questions as before. Dream Team retro. What this focuses on values, absence, so what was missing, and practices what's helpful to practice and to help the team work well together. Superhero retro. So this covers basically stronger skills in the teams, what tools and processes are most helpful, what makes working together difficult or the role difficult, and what role do people see themselves fitting into. New Year retro, growth and wisdom, hits and resolutions for the future, Diwali. This is an interesting one I haven't used before. It might be interesting to try it out. And it covers what do we need to guide us forward, what practices or processes are bringing positivity, so it's very positive. And what do we need to tidy up or clean up or remove? And what problems are hindering us? So these are all different retrospective, but I can also create my own. So if I create a template here, I would need to have pro account, which I don't. But if you do have one, then you can also do that and put in your own questions. So if I pick the Diwali retro, for example, it's stuck. I can click use template if that's the one I want. I can have anonymous reflections or include the icebreaker. These are the two free options that I have. And I can also change the theme. So if that wasn't the correct theme and this is the correct theme where I want to have it, then you can pick the themes there. It may be that you need to create a theme before you can do this. But let's say I want to create it on my template theme. Start meeting. This starts the meeting, so it facilitates you through the process. And it gives every opportunity for. So if I click the icebreaker, it gives me an icebreaker before. And it's asking me an icebreaker question. If I don't like the question, I can reset this. And you can reset it, or you can pick your own. For example. Yeah. Then you can move on. So once everyone has done the icebreaker, then you have the reflection mode. The reflection mode is when everybody in the team gets to answer the retrospective questions that you have chosen in your template anonymously. So you can here have them add your objectives, for example, your responsibilities. Check-ins, gratefulness, practice, and so on and so forth. And once everybody is ready, then you can go into the group mode and you can see each other's questions, each other's answers to each of the question. Now, at this point, people can also add more responses. So if they see that, oh, that was also, I would also say that. So let's say team bonding, coffee breaks. And I can also group them. So if there are two similar answers that go together, then I can group them like so. Can I group them here? There. So they're all grouped together. And you can also ungroup them if that's not right. By moving that out. Right. So grouping and ungrouping. So this will take a few minutes for the group to group together common topics for reflection, for discussion. And this is where the discussion happens, right? Then there's a voting. So this is where if you have too many cards, especially, and you don't have time to go through all of them, people can vote. And there's vote settings here for the facilitator so that you can allocate number of votes per participants and number of votes per topic. And you can increase these as much as you want. So let's say 10 votes for 10 per topic. And so people can use their use their number of votes in whichever way they want to indicate how important or not important some of these topics are, so that it can help then guide discussion. So once that there is a here, it gives you a title of check-ins. In this case, this is the reflection. And you can also take notes about the meeting for each topic here in the chat. And at the end, you have the option to download the summary of this meeting. This is quite a comprehensive tool that is used for, let's say, automating some of the processes that go into facilitating the retro. So if you don't have a good facilitator in your group, this is a good way to do it together. If you're an experienced facilitator and you still want to use this tool, then that's great. You can do that. It's free and you can sign up, make sure that the whole team signs up for it before you start. And you can run through it. Especially if there are retrospective models that apply to you and you don't want to use Miro or you don't want to use Nextcloud, Nextcloud can also incorporate some of these practices that more in a manual way. So someone needs to curate the document to include the questions before, decide on the session design, who's doing what at what time, how long people have to talk about their topics. Just a short side note about the two tools that I have shown you today. Miro is not an open source tool and is quite Wi-Fi heavy, but it is available to you as a Next Steps project contributor or a contributor team. So you can request a Miro board for your team and I can add to it any template that you like that you have seen today. You can also do that yourself, I believe, but if you can't do that, you can let me know and we can sort you out. The Parabol tool is free and open source, and you can get all your team signed up independently. So this is basically the end of the demo. You have seen different styles of retrospectives, different examples, and also 2 different tools which you can use. As a Next Steps project, you have full autonomy on how you manage the tools and processes within your team, and you are free to choose any of these that you want, even the ones that we haven't shown you. If you find any good open source tools, we're always keen to know about them. So please do share them with the rest of the community in the channel, and so that we can increase our knowledge and tools that the community has access to.